Okay. Good morning and welcome back to the channel. What we're going to do this morning is to do an overview on a presentation to show exactly what I did to my plot 12 months ago to turn it into NoDig and the results that we've got. And over a 12-month period, well, we actually started harvesting in the April, but I set the plot up in January as NoDig. But right up from April up until the 23rd of December, we took just under 194 kilos of produce off that one plot, which is 420 pounds, I think, something like that. But we'll show you exactly how we did it. Okay, so the first question everybody asks is, what is NoDig? Well, NoDig is a form of gardening where you don't turn over the soil, you don't disturb the soil in any way, but you feed the soil with organic matter. So what you do is you just put, for the very first time, you put a layer of cardboard down, which only suppresses the weeds, but that will rot down. Then you put between 5 and 6 inches of compost or on the top. You can plant straight into the compost, or you can put it in and then leave it a couple of weeks and then do it. But what actually is happening, because you're not turning the soil over, all the worms and all the microorganisms and all the good bacteria in the soil are fertilising that soil. And what happens is the worms are moving around in the soil and they leave little tunnels behind them, and they make little casts over the top of the soil. Air gets into that soil naturally, and so does the water, so you're retaining moisture. And with putting the compost on the top, it's also retaining moisture, which we'll go through in a couple of minutes. When I've been looking through and researching how far back the NoDig goes, I can take it back to 1944. The first book came out that I can find is Gardening with Compost, and that's by F.C. King. 4 years later, 1948, another book from another guy, Gardening Without Digging by Albert Guest. And then in 1980, and he's got 12 books up to date today, because he's still going today, is Charles Dowding. Now he is the actual guru who's turned NoDig into what it is today. And he is a professional market gardener doing this system. So the benefits of NoDig: you don't have to turn the soil over, so there's no back-breaking digging or anything at all like that. It's time-saving, so you can sit down on your plots and have a cup of tea or whatever you want to do. You're certainly going to get a lot less weeds because you've suppressed all the weeds by putting cardboard down, and then you put your mulch on the top, which is your compost. No bed prep between crops. So once your cabbages are finished or your sprouts are finished, all you do is twist the plant out, leaving the roots in the ground, because those roots are producing food for all the bacteria, the microorganisms, and they've all got nitrogen in them as well. So you just pull that out, rake it over, and then get your dibber, put your dibber hole in, and then put your plant straight into it and give it a good water. There's no prep at all between bed crops. Also, there's a lot less watering. On my plot last year, I was only watering 2 to 3 times per week, where everybody else that was gardening conventionally were watering morning and night every day. I had to water the greenhouse every day in the really hot weather, because obviously the greenhouse evaporates the moisture a lot quicker. But for the outside plot, it's 2 to 3 times per week, which is a good saving on your watering. It gives you a good healthy soil structure, because all the worms, the bacteria and everything are doing their work underneath the ground, and they're giving a good root structure and making it more fertile. But also, when you're harvesting your root harvests, like your carrots, your parsnips, your potatoes, they're a lot cleaner, because the compost doesn't actually stick to the produce at all. You just pull it out. You might have to get a trowel for carrots or parsnips. Just ease the ground, loosen it up, pull it out, and you've got nice carrots and parsnips. There's no extra fertilisers or feeds necessary on the NoDig beds. Last year, I've been gardening for 45 years, and last year is the first year I've never had to give any feed to any of the plants, including my tomatoes. And I had the best crop ever last year by doing the NoDig inside the greenhouse. Normally when I'm growing my tomatoes and you see a yellow flower on it, you start feeding it with liquid seaweed or tomato right or something like that as a fertiliser. I didn't give them any feeds whatsoever, and I had the best crop I've ever had. And also another good thing about the benefits of the NoDig, you don't have to rely on crop rotation. So once your potatoes come out, you can put your leeks in, and then once your leeks come out next year, you can put your potatoes back in and just keep going like that. And the same with the cabbages, the salads, everything like that. You're not actually planting into the soil, you're planting into the compost. There is another good benefit of this, which I haven't put on here, but every time you turn your compost, your soil over, you're releasing carbon into the atmosphere. All green plants, trees are the biggest one, suck in carbon from the atmosphere. That goes down into the roots and it produces oxygen, which releases back into the atmosphere. But all the microorganisms and the bacteria live on that carbon. So every time you turn your soil over, you're releasing carbon into the atmosphere, and then unless you're putting fertilisers back into it, that soil will become barren. But all this information is widely available on the internet or the library or anywhere you want to have a look. It will be widely available. Okay, the disadvantages of the NoDig is there is an initial outlay on the first year of the initial setup if you haven't got enough compost of your own that you've made yourself. So don't do what I did initially. I went straight to a garden centre and I bought 30 bags of compost, and it cost me £150. Then I found out we were only 2 miles away from a local recycling centre. So I can go into the recycling centre with my own trailer and buy it loose, and I'm paying £20 per tonne. I needed, my plot is half a plot, so it's approximately 100 square metres, and I used 4 tonnes on there. So from the recycling centre, it would have cost me £80, but I'll show you how to get your money back, how you can get your money back at the end. So with the initial outlay, I had to use 4 tonnes because I had to use between 5 and 6 inches of layer of compost, but that's the first year only. The second year, you only need to put an inch layer on and carry on from there. Pest control. What I did to remove all the pests and everything from my plot, I removed all the wooden sides. So where I got wooden beds, I removed all those, and what I actually found was this more up the top there. What I actually found, there was slugs and woodlice all living in that wood. So when I took it away and I got rid of all the wood, I turned the plot into this, which is the NoDig. There's no wooden sides around the plot or anything. But you can actually see the quality difference from the soil structure with the photographs on here. Okay, so I took all the wooden sides away, which removed all the slugs as much as we could. So what we did then, I water in the morning. If you water in the morning, you're letting your plants go to bed at night dry, so the slugs don't come out. So I always water in the morning. And to stop caterpillars, the white butterflies start flying around and laying eggs from the end of May. So I use Bacillus thuringiensis, which is an organic compound, and that is this. And all I do is mix 1 gram of that to 1 litre of water, and you just spray it onto your plants. And what that does, it only kills caterpillars. It doesn't harm the butterflies, the bees, birds that eat the caterpillars once they've died. but you don't get any caterpillars that are eating away at cabbages. And also, I first learned about Bacillus thuringiensis was in 2020. I lost all of my leeks to leek moth. Now on this site we'd never had leek moth before. I'd never heard of it, so I researched it online, and it came up with this Bacillus thuringiensis. So last year I sprayed everything with this, but I did cover the leeks as well, but I didn't lose a single plant through leek moth. Now what happens with leek moth, it lays its larvae at the base of the plant, and then as the larvae hatches, the little grubs, the caterpillars, go inside the plant, and it's the bacteria that they leave behind in the holes that they burrow, that's what turns the leek into just a mush, and there's no way you can eat it. But one thing it does do is it can lay its eggs in the larvae in September, but that can lay dormant in the soil all over winter, and then it can hatch out again in April, in May, and start it again. I did get, around October time, I got whitefly on my sprouts. So when I go home and I wash my hands with soapy water, instead of letting the soapy water just go down the drain, put it into a spray bottle. And if you spray your plants that have got these whitefly on with soapy water, I got rid of the whitefly. That went all together. But also, I do cover crops with fine netting, and I buy mine from Amazon. It's Koitech netting. It's 10 meters long, 2 meters wide, and it's a fine netting, and you can water straight through it. And you can see, I don't know whether you'll see on the film, but I've got my salads covered with netting. That's the netting there. And also I've got some cabbages that have been covered there. These cabbages will have been covered because I've got leeks on the other side, which I don't know whether you'll see on there. But normally my cabbages are left open, like here, here, because you don't need to keep them covered. I only cover them when I put new plants in like this. So what we did here, we put all the cabbages in, and then when we harvested a cabbage, we harvested every other one, so it left a gap. That way I can put my Savoy cabbages in, so while we're still eating the Primo cabbage, the Savoys are already growing. Okay? So, let's go on to the next page. With doing the no-dig, you don't really need to give any extra fertilisers. But last year, I sowed my runner beans too early, and because they're frost tender, I didn't want to put them out till at least mid-May. But I sowed them too early, and by the time mid-May came, they were up to this height. So I either put them in or I'd lose them. So if we did get a frost, okay, I was still early enough to put some more in. So I did put the runner beans into the ground, and within a couple of days they started to go yellow. So what I had to do is give those a feed to give them a comeback. So a friend of mine loaned me a book, and I found a recipe in there for homemade fermented plant juice. Now all that is, I went round early in the morning when the dew was on, and I took 250 grams of nettles. I shredded it all up in a bucket, and then I added 180 grams of brown sugar. I mixed it all together and put it into an old pickle onion jar which has been sterilised. So I rammed it all into a pickle onion jar, then just put a very thin layer of brown sugar on the top. I put another jar with a stone inside, so it's got a weight to weigh it down. Put that on the top, and then I've just put it on a shelf in the kitchen. And by the end of 7 days, it comes up with a juice, like that. Now, if you add water to nettles or water to comfrey, that's rotting and it stinks. But this, there's no bad smell to this at all. In fact, you couldn't even smell it when it was in the kitchen, and it's been there for 7 days. Now this has got a lifetime, you can keep it on a shelf in your shed for a lifetime, and if you make any more, you just add to it. It doesn't go off at all. So all you do is mix 2 mils of this to a litre of water, put it into a spray bottle, and you spray it onto the foliage. I've actually made a video, it's on the video channel, of fermented plant juice, and I show you how to make it and how to apply it, because it's a foliage spray, not a watering. You can water it, but it takes longer to get into it. If you use it as a foliage spray, the actual leaves and the plant is taking in all the goodness within the hour, within minutes. As soon as it starts to dry out on those leaves, it's taking it. And within 2 days, they were turning from yellow to nice green. And I had a really, really good crop. And you can actually see some of them there as a good crop. In fact, let me just have a look and see how many kilos of runner beans. Just under 19 kilos we took off for the runner beans, and that was approximately 50 plants. But nothing else, nothing else on the plot had any feed at all. But why buy feed when you can make it yourself? So let's go to the next page. And this is something that I've been doing for over 45 years. So I sow all the seeds compared with the moon. It's called the moon phase. I don't follow the lunar system, because you've got to sow seeds by a certain time on a certain day or whatever. So the way this works is you've got a new moon, and then 15 days later you'll get a full moon. So that's called the waxing phase. So every night the moon is getting bigger. The moon is drawing moisture up off the ground, and then that's producing better crops. So when we go to the full moon, 15 days later you'll get the new moon. That's called the waning phase, and that's for planting all your root crops. So the moon is getting smaller every night, and the Earth's gravity is pulling downwards, so you'll get better root crops. So I have made another video on the channel about sowing seeds at the right time. So just have a look at that one, it goes through it in more detail. The only seeds I sow direct are carrots, parsnips and potatoes. Everything else is sown in these module trays. Well, I put these in, these are just ordinary takeaway trays. You put holes in the bottom, and then you can put your seeds in there with your compost, because I put them on the windowsills for the heat to get them germinated. And then they'll all be pricked out and transplanted out into module trays. This is a 60 module tray, this is a 6 module tray, but you can get all sorts. So what we do then, like radish for example, I'll put the compost in, I'll put, for radishes, root crops, I'll put 5 to 6 seeds per tray. And then when you come, they've germinated and they're ready to go out, you just pop it out and put it straight into the ground. Beetroots, I'll do 4 to a tray. So I can put 4 seeds in one of these, then just pop it out, and when you come to harvest, put it in the ground. When you come to harvest, you just twist the biggest one out and let the remainder carry on. Leeks, I'll do 4 to 5 per cell. Spring onions will be 6 to 7, and peas, between 2 and 3 peas per cell. Are we going to, do we need to pause it there? So, to put all of this into perspective, if I bought me compost at £20 a tonne, I had 4 tonnes, so that's £80. Just looking at the salad leaves, we produced just under 18 kilos of salads. If I bought mixed salads from the supermarket, an average bag weighs 120 grams. So if I divide that by that, it comes out to 148 bags. If I bought all of those bags from the supermarket, the average price of a bag of 120 grams is £1.20. I would have paid out £177.60 for just those salad leaves. We take into consideration the £80 that I've paid for 4 tonnes of compost. Minus that from that, leaves you £97. My annual plot rent, with it being half a plot, is £35 a year. But that's still leaving me £62.60. But that's only on salad leaves of just under 18 kilos. You've also got every other product that you bought on the plot. So there's 23 kilos of primo cabbage, 18 kilos of runner beans, 19 kilos of runner beans, 26 kilos of Charlotte potatoes, and so on. For the whole, from April through till December, it's 194 kilos that we've taken off that plot. So I hope this has put everything into perspective for you. It is a good way of gardening, and we will be making a lot more videos, and there's also our Facebook page, Neil Wilson NoDig allotment, and all the information will be going on there. So if you like what you've seen and you're interested, please give us the thumbs up, subscribe so you know when the next video is coming out, and I'll see you next time.